And so as we get going, please enter any questions into the chat. We have received some in advance. And on behalf of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us on the final day of Small Business Week for our roundtable discussion. This was something we actually started during COVID because it was a COVID thing to do, but we're grateful to have you continue the tradition and joining us today. So welcome MP Chris Malette and MPP Tyler Allsopp.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Suzanne Andrews. I'm the CEO at the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce and pleased to be part of today's roundtable. I've got a few questions that have been submitted by local business people, and I look forward to hearing from both our MP and MPP about the issues that are really important to local SMEs.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Duarte Da Silva. I'm the CEO for the Prince Edward County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for joining us and to the MP and MPP as we wrap up another exciting Bay of Quinte Small Business Week. Looking forward to it.
All right, so why don't we start with our MP and just tell us what's happening over there in Ottawa now that we can't trade with US anymore. Oh, sorry, you should be able to unmute.
There. Well, at first I wasn't able to unmute myself, so it's like when the speaker rises in the house and your mic automatically cuts off. And that happened to me, my very first speech in the House. So thank you, everybody, for having us. And it was a delight to speak to the Chamber breakfast last week. It was truly a lot of fun and a great crowd. Yeah, Jill, as you alluded to, welcome to our world in the era of Donald Trump and trying to navigate that minefield. We all woke up this morning to the news that all bilateral trade talks between Canada and the U.S. have been, what word did he use? Suspended, eliminated, blown up, he quits. So this could change by this afternoon, and as we all know, but it's just another example of just the precarious nature of our economy and how we're dealing with this right now. So the Prime Minister is today on a flight to Asia, attending the Asia Pacific conferences. There are two, I believe, there, and he's meeting with Asian counterparts. I understand President Trump is going, but again, that could change. So perhaps we will see some change in his tone, maybe once they get together over a cup of coffee and the president's ever-present Diet Coke. But my point is that trying to establish policy and navigate right now is just extremely difficult, and today was just another example. That said, our government is establishing programs and supports to help buffer the effects of some of these body blows that we're taking. So, you know, these aren't excuses, as most people understand. It's just the nature of doing business in the era of Donald Trump. So I know that an awful lot of small businesses, municipalities, agencies who have to navigate these troubled waters are having as much of a challenge as we are. So hopefully I can answer a few questions today. I've got some of the information in front of me on some of the programs we're offering, but we are rolling out more supports as needed, and we do have some success stories. So despite the fact that the automotive industry, the softwood lumber industry, and the other major sectors are taking some massive hits right now, we're doing what we can. to again navigate those troubled waters. So I look forward to the questions today. And again, thanks to the chambers and chambers for facilitating this. And I look forward to our session. Thank you.
Great. Tyler, if you have anything you'd like to share, I think you should be able to unmute yourself.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Jill, and happy Small Business Week to everybody out here and in there and all over the Bay of Quinte region. As a former small business owner myself, some of you may know that I owned Doug's Bicycle on College Street in Belleville for about 12 years. So I have a very deep understanding of the challenges that small businesses face on a day-to-day basis, even when things are going well. And unfortunately, we're at a time when things are not going very well. It's very uncertain because of the unjustified and unprovoked trade war that we found ourselves in with President Trump and our nearest trading partner in the United States, and the effect that that's having on business. Not only the direct results of the tariffs, but also the disruptions in the supply chain, liquidity issues, hesitancy from investors. It is a very challenging time, and we're here to help navigate through it with you. Our government has been very busy. We just got back to the legislature this week. We have a new red tape reduction bill on the table, a Building a Better Economy Act, which is working its way through the House right now. Since coming to office in 2018, we've cut about 650 pieces of red tape, which has lowered the overall red tape totality in Ontario by about 6%. So those reductions have saved Ontario businesses about 1.8 million hours per year and about $11 billion. So we're very committed to making sure that we're getting red tape out of the way, that we're expediting process without reducing substance, making sure that we're still protecting the environment, protecting consumers, protecting our municipalities, but also making it easier to get things done. And that's one of the ways that we're really trying to address this trade situation that we have right now, is by establishing Ontario as one of the best foreign direct investment locales in the world. Just last year, we had 409 international companies relocate or build new businesses in Ontario through about a $40 billion investment that created 24,700 jobs. So we're continuing to pursue foreign direct investment. We're continuing to provide supports to our small businesses. Some of you may have noticed that in Budget 2025, we put forward about $30 billion in different tariff relief measures, which included offsetting provincial taxes for businesses, WSIB reductions, WSIB premium returns, as well as $5 billion in the Protect Ontario account. We released the first $1 billion of that account as part of the Protect Ontario financing program, where businesses can apply to get some liquidity to help them through this challenging time, not just for large businesses, but small businesses as well. We've done a number of other things, including increasing the Made in Ontario manufacturing tax credit by $1.3 billion and increasing the threshold from 10 to 15%, which is a fantastic program that encourages people to build things in Ontario. We also increased Invest Ontario, which is the investment arm of the government, by $600 million to help attract some of those large anchor businesses that we need to create employment throughout our communities. And one of the great things about landing those large anchor businesses is that for small and medium-sized enterprises, they need those suppliers and that supply chain. And there's a great opportunity for you to get involved when we have a large employer land in the area to help supply them with the things that they'll need as well. So lots going on from our perspective, lots of supports available to you, and looking forward to taking your questions and talking about how we can work together to make sure we not only get through this crisis, but come out on the other side stronger and more resilient as well.
Suzanne, do you want to start with any of your questions?
Sure, I can do that. Great, thank you. This question was submitted, and it would be to both levels of government. Given the size of the public service is larger than ever, why is it that Canadians are complaining, Ontarians are complaining that the level of customer service continues to erode? What are some of the solutions that your governments are looking at to ensure that people are getting the level of service they need? Maybe I'll get Tyler, you can start if you'd like.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And, I think size of government is one thing. We've seen There's been a significant increase over the past 10 years in the size of the federal government. We have had a slight increase in the Ontario government as well, but we've really tried to focus on not expanding the government. We definitely view expansion of jobs in the private sector, in self-employment, as being much better for the economy. So we've tried to hold the line as best we can on public sector growth. But what I will say is we do absolutely need to take a more customer service mindset into the public service as well. And I know that that's something that reverberates through our party. A lot of us have been small business owners, have worked in customer service, and understand how frustrating it is for businesses. I mean, one of the things that used to drive me the craziest when I was a small business owner is the amount of time I would spend with the CRA on the phone trying to sort out how much money I was going to send them. I mean, that's the kind of thing you sit on hold for 3 or 4 hours, which you don't have if you're a busy working small business owner. You can't get through to somebody, you get connected, they transfer you over, the call drops, and then you have to go through it all again. And so sometimes this was a multi-day process. But we know that on the grant side as well from the provincial government, there continues to be issues. There continues to be problems with accessibility, things taking too long. And we know that we need to move at the speed of business in order to be able to service businesses correctly. So it's certainly front of mind for me. It's front of mind for the Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery as well, Minister Crawford, who I was discussing this with the other day. And so we're doing everything that we can, as I said, in terms of cutting red tape, in terms of simplifying process without reducing substance, to make sure that we're more customer focused.
And the same question to you, MP Malette.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. Yes. And the civil service right now it's everybody's punching bag. And in some cases, as Tyler pointed out, rightfully so, when you're discussing CRA issues, we've all heard the horror stories, and one just outlined by former small business owner MPP Allsopp. We've heard you in terms of CRA exactly, precisely. Secretary of State Long, I think, has spoken quite eloquently in the House on this, and we've implemented a 100-day review, which is well on in, and that review basically had high-level officials from the CRA literally almost called up on the carpet to explain why we have such issues. It was found to be, some staffing issues. And again, this is where people talk about the bloated civil service, if you will. Well, it turns out that they had trimmed, in fact, in the wrong places. We're effectively managing that as we speak, and you'll hear more about some of this November 4th when the budget rolls out. But we're applying services where they need. We're reducing red tape where we find it, but we're also ramping up services. So in our own office, we found almost a 50% reduction in delays for CRA response times. And Tyler, I hear you. We hear it almost daily at our office, the frustrations, and as a result, that has been passed along, and we are seeing a significant reduction in wait times just to speak to somebody to resolve a case, and the resolutions are coming quicker as well. So there are good things happening on that front, but we all know that the bureaucracy doesn't, as Neil Young said, rust never sleeps. Bureaucracy never tends to accumulate more bureaucracy. So I can tell you right now, Prime Minister Carney is fixated on reducing that, because as a former Bank of Canada governor, Mr. Carney discovered that inertia can harm businesses in all levels. So what we're finding is what we're working on is reducing that red tape, but bolstering the civil service where it needs to be bolstered. And the CRA is a good example of that happening, both things happening in one agency.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up about that. I will say, someone who's just recently had their passport renewed, I know that that department reached crisis levels with passport delays being completely unacceptable. And the
Yeah,
government,
that would be Service Canada, yeah.
yeah, and the government has done a wonderful job of turning that around to the point where now.
To that point, Susanna, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just as while we've got a good audience right now, the Service Canada now on the issue of passports, you go directly to the Service Canada office in the former post office on Station Street here in Belleville. They will scan your passport application right into the system now. It's
Yeah.
no more of this, we'll put it in a big courier bag and it'll, when the truck comes by, we'll wave it down and away it goes. This is we're finding quicker turnarounds in passport services. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when things reach a crisis, the government, does overhaul systems and start to think a little more strategically about how to get things done. And that's just an example of what can be accomplished if you get the right minds working on, getting rid of the barriers within government. And there was no reason why Service Canada offices and passport offices had to be two separate locations, right? So, we know it can be done, and I'm glad to hear that, the government recognizes the issue because the levels have become unacceptable, especially around the CRA. I mean, we all love to talk about how horrible the customer service there is, but we're looking forward to when you get that updated. Do you see the government adopting AI to help with some of these customer service issues?
At a federal level, yeah, absolutely. To the point that our new minister in charge of IA, Evan Solomon. Some of you may remember Evan as a journalist with the CBC. Evan is a super switched on guy in terms of this file, and we're making great progress in that. To the extent that we will be having AI assistance for people doing online applications, queries. Where in the past you may have again, that going back to our CRA issue, where you may have been waiting for a person in a call center, whatever. We're at a point now where we're about to bring online, and we are bringing online AI assistance for businesses. And it's happening, that assistance is happening at the speed of the internet. So it's very much a part of our toolbox, and it's going to be a big benefit to individuals and businesses going forward.
And Tyler,
Yeah,
did you have something? Yeah.
absolutely. And so I just wanted to pull up the number because if I give a number, particularly to business people, I want to make sure it's the right one. So in 2018, we had 60,000 members of the Ontario Public Service, the core public service. In 2024, we had 63,000. So we had about a 5% growth in public service over that 6-year period. So really focusing on trying to keep those numbers as tight as we can while making sure we maximize service delivery. A couple of the issues that had been brought up to us at the provincial level in terms of delays, one of which was vulnerable sector checks. A lot of businesses need employees to go through those checks. Those were taking far too long. The Solicitor General is working on a number of different solutions for that now. Some jurisdictions are much better than others, but overall that wasn't working very well. And where we particularly saw that was in long-term care homes, where they would have someone that they wanted to hire, but then the record check would take 5 or 6 weeks to get back. Well, that person who's applying for that job doesn't have 5 or 6 weeks to wait around to get the record check back. They're going to apply for something else. They're going to work somewhere else. So we've been cutting that down quite significantly. And certainly in all areas where we find that there are delays, including the landlord-tenant board. We had quite a backlog with the landlord-tenant board. I know that was very difficult for smaller retail level landlords as well. We've cut the backlog by over 40%. We hired a number of new adjudicators across the province, increased their numbers significantly. And we'll continue to take those actions to make sure that we cut down that time, because we know how difficult it is to be in a situation where you're in limbo. Maybe you have unpaid rents. You need to get this resolved right away. So we're working on that pretty diligently. On the AI file, absolutely. This is actually something when Minister Calandra was in charge of municipal affairs and housing, he came down and talked to the Quinte Home Builders Association. and even brought up the idea of using AI from a planning perspective to get planning applications approved quicker. No more waiting around for 8-10 weeks on planning applications. I mean, it's a relatively standardized data set. You know, here is the building code. Here is what the lot is. You know, you can very quickly overlay that data, analyze it, and then get a result back to those home builders to expedite that process. And we know that certainly getting more homes built, more shovels in the ground faster is a key priority. It's something I heard all the time at the doors. And so we're using AI in that capacity. And we really have established ourselves as a global leader in AI. We have 80,000 jobs in Ontario that are in the AI sector. That's an increase of 17,500 over last year. We have the Vector Institute, where Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, has been working very hard over there with 860 of the top experts in the world in artificial intelligence. And so we really see this as not only a way to create greater efficiency in government, whether that be in housing or in healthcare, in clinical trials, all sorts of different applications, but also an opportunity for economic growth as we can lead this charge into a more AI-driven future.
We do have one quick question in the chat about the Auditor General's report on CRA accuracy levels. Does anybody want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, it's our, we've had the Auditor General, we've had the Auditor General's report out for a few days. That is, and we absolutely concur with the findings of the Auditor General. It's unacceptable what has happened. Those are all those findings are right now under review, and we have to. And again, this isn't excuse making. This is the information and the delays and the details that were released in the Auditor General's report, and we found this on the issues regarding defense as well. All of the findings were done prior to this government taking office, and all this did was tell us what we already knew, is that we had to make changes, and as I pointed out, the CRA delays and the effectiveness. We found when this new government took office that unacceptable, some of the cuts and some of the delays that have been done, and we're making it right now. So that's we're addressing it, and our office is we're not finding that currently. As I said, as our office staff, I can only tell you what our very good office staff here is finding when dealing with the CRA, is that the systems are getting better. Our turnaround times are much better, our responses, and our success rates. We've had some, I can tell you, we've had some very good wins on behalf of people. Just last week, one of our folks got leveraged $29,000 for an individual who had thought she was expecting much less, that kind of thing. But we are getting that happening, and I know that the Auditor General did have some pretty harsh findings, and they're justified, and we're fixing them. This is why we have an Auditor General, to point out where things are not operating properly, and we're addressing them specifically. One quick note on the AI. We've got a new platform. We've invested $50 million in this new AI platform, and it's a job matching platform, and it's spectacular. We saw a rollout of it and how it works. So I encourage folks who are looking to job match for small businesses. You're looking for employees. Our office can provide the information on how to connect, but it is an AI-driven job matching platform, and it's getting rave reviews right now. So thanks, Suzanne.
Dward, do you want to bring something up from the Prince Edward County community?
Absolutely. So the inquiries that are just sort of late breaking to us is the announcement of Wellington closing their only remaining bank branch. Scotiabank has announced that they will be closing in June 26th. We know that there's been several rural banks closing, and as the big five start to sort of consolidate their service and actually move online and switch to AI, that raises issues on how a community grows without services like a bank. That means in Prince Edward County, there'll be 4 banks in Picton and nowhere else. So we know that banking and a bank is one of the sort of bedrock and cornerstones of a community. People move to communities where they have services like banking. So the questions we receive is, what can the 2 levels of government do to incentivize and encourage, if not force, banks to remain in rural communities to serve the residents as we build out subdivisions and more housing to allow people who, especially who can't not drive or be transported, including seniors, to work. What can we do to support the community and encourage banks to remain and service their rural communities?
Don't all
And
answer at once.
Yeah, either one of you can start.
I think we could. I think
Oh,
that's more of
sorry.
a.
Okay, well, I
Go
can,
ahead.
I
Yeah,
can,
go ahead.
I can start.
We could rock, paper, scissors on some of these, Chris, if you want.
That's, well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. From a federal standpoint, there are banking regulations, and there are certain regulations pertaining to notice. Up to 4 months for individual customers, 6 months notice for businesses. These are requirements for when they do precisely what this bank is doing in Wellington. And the sad reality is, and this is from a guy who, for some number of years, lived in Sterling, and I know that some of the smaller municipalities, and in my years as a reporter at the Intel, we covered the entire Quinte area, from Marmora to Madoc, Tweed, smaller municipalities in between. Banks have been doing this to smaller communities for years now, and the hue and cry has not lessened, for good reason, because it leaves people, as you just mentioned, Stuart, in the lurch. It is the last financial institution on the main street in Wellington, and my wife runs a small business in Wellington, and she relied on that bank branch. And it is going to be an inconvenience, and it's going to be an inconvenience to a lot of people. And, the branches will say now, well, a lot of banking's gone online and it's not a business model that we, and at some point we have to just demand of our banks. Yeah, well, listen, you know what? I can vote with my feet on that, and I know that my bank and/or trust company is going to stay open in my neighborhood, and you can vote with your feet on that. So all I can say is that we do have regulations, but in a free market system, and some people are calling for open banking and allowing for more choice in banking. It's still, this is the choice of the banks to operate where they want to operate, and that's the nature of financial institutions everywhere. And you know what? In most cases, it sucks. You're paying more in fees and you're getting less in service. So welcome to the banking industry. Unfortunately, they never seem to have smaller dividends for their shareholders either. So.
Well, certainly I would agree with a lot of what MP Malette said. The banks, I don't know if everyone's looked at their corporate profits recently. They're really having a tough time. We all feel very badly for them. But ultimately, it is a decision based on what the market is demanding, right? And so they take a look at how many people are coming through the door, what is the viability of that branch, and then they make these decisions writ large about smaller communities. And it is a real challenge because it does prohibit access for a lot of people. Certainly a lot of older residents want to be able to go in and have that connection and talk to a real person, which unfortunately in an increasingly digital and AI driven environment is occurring less and less. I think as Chris touched on, some people are calling for open banking. I will say that I think that this, for a smaller, more nimble bank, could pose a real unique selling proposition in the marketplace in terms of we are the local brick and mortar bank. And so my hope is that through the natural competitive process, someone will identify that there's a gap in the market here where there are people who are unwilling to go online or unable to go online, as it may be. We know that certainly internet connectivity is not the same everywhere across our riding. And you look at a lot of northern ridings and a lot of more rural ridings even than we are, who have significant connectivity issues. So online banking, though great when it's accessible, is not entirely accessible to everyone. And so my hope is that this will stimulate some competition in the marketplace, that perhaps one of those smaller, more nimble banks, not one of the big five, but maybe someone in that 6 through 10 will take a look at this and say, you know what, there is a reason to be in some of these small towns. It does make sense for us from a financial standpoint, and that this might be a way to get a better foothold on the market, change some consumer behavior, and then ultimately draw on a larger customer base over time. And we would certainly be supportive of that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I just touch on something that Tyler just mentioned? The connectivity and the internet service and the ability to do online banking. It's an excellent point. And I know, let's say, Duart, in your particular case around Prince Edward County, I'm not telling anybody anything different. There's everything. There are dead zones all over that county. And I mean, hello, it's 2025. It's Prince Edward County, for God's sake. It's not, we're not in Temiskaming. And you know what? Temiskaming may have very good 5G networks for all I know anymore. But the point is that this past week I hosted the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in Ottawa, and we had a great discussion. And if anybody's at all familiar with some of the work of that body and its representatives of all of our counties, as the name implies, Mayor Steve Ferguson was there, Warden Mullen from Hastings County. But some years ago, under the leadership of former Hastings County CAO Jim Pine, that body developed what is known as the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. And because anybody understanding the geography and the topography of Eastern Ontario knows this is a very difficult area to do 5G or fast, reliable internet service. Any more financial institutions, even small businesses and larger businesses, need that kind of connectivity. These bodies are working on that, and we as a federal government are working with them, I know, to improve those networks, and they are getting better. Are they anywhere near where they need to be? Absolutely not. So this is what I mean. The point I was getting to in a little bit of a roundabout way is that when any of these institutions close in any of these smaller communities, the crying need only gets louder for people to have the ability to go online and do that online banking, but you need the connectivity to do it. And it's going to take both levels of government, federal and provincial, to help. And we are getting there. And then there are successes in that regard. And I recommend anybody just look up the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, the EORN, under that body of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and see where we have made great improvements to some of these places. That means if you go to say Heights Point and wonder why you have no connectivity, somebody's still got to work that one out. So thanks.
Thank you. And definitely Jorn has been, part of, because our chamber also supports north of the 401, definitely seen some of the impact of that. Would say that they struggled to get it right for a long time. So it's good to hear that they're doing better. Just saying. But moving on to another question, I know that for residents in Belleville and businesses in Belleville, certainly the homelessness and mental health and addictions crisis is overwhelming. And just no single level of government is really responsible, and can't resolve it alone. But is there anything that you are hearing about this at your level around delivering coordinated or measurable progress? Are there any timelines or accountability mechanisms that are in place? And do we at least recognize the need and commitment to create a plan? And before you answer, I just want to acknowledge that one of the things that we're doing through the Ontario Chamber Network, we have 16 communities who are putting out a survey around the initiatives that nobody else is talking about. And so if they haven't been funded or supported through some type of program, they're often left untracked. And with this report, we're hoping that we'll see a trend across common things operating almost in silos because no one's talking about them, and making an appeal first to the provincial government with recommendations around things like welcoming streets. The other thing is, if you had them operating in your community under a single name, each of these initiatives may be identified by something different, but if we can identify similar programs, then expand that support. Anyway, that's a big, long question, but where does this sit on your desk right now?
Well, I think Chris jumped in first on the last one, so maybe I'll kick this one off. And it's a very complicated, multifaceted, multi-level problem, as you've identified. And I think it's important when we have this discussion about people who are living on our streets and are unhoused, that we understand that no community is a monolith. Not everyone who ends up in that situation gets there from the same path. They all have unique stories, unique backgrounds, and unique challenges that brought them there. I mean, certainly, mental health is a key component, addiction is a key component, availability of housing, even things like having a more tolerant society. I mean, a large number of youth that end up on the street for the first time do so because they're part of the LGBT community. And when they come out to their parents say, that's not going to occur under my roof, and then they end up homeless. And we know that when people are homeless as a young adult, they're much more likely to experience homelessness throughout their lives. So it is a challenging thing. I think that sometimes we paint it with too broad of a brush. So there's a number of different things that we need to do. I mean, obviously, we need more support for people who are living on the streets. We provide about $654 million to our homelessness prevention program as a province. About $6.1 million of that goes to Hastings County, who is the local service provider. And they use that for a number of different projects, including funding some of our emergency shelters like Grace Inn, for some of our transitional housing at Shiloh House and at others, as well as providing rent subsidies so that people can maintain the apartments that they have. And this, I think, is one of the major reasons why we've seen such an explosion of homelessness really across the country, is because housing rates and rental rates have risen so quickly that people weren't able to keep up. And so if they were renting an apartment that used to cost $700 or $800 a month, and over a 4 or 5 year period, if they found themselves no longer able to retain that specific apartment, they were into an environment where they were having to look at $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 a month. And that was just out of reach for a lot of people, particularly people if they were on OW or on ODSP, find it very difficult with the housing allowance portion of that money to be able to get anything reasonable now. I mean, I remember you used to be able to rent a room for $500. Even those single room rentals in a shared house are now into $800 or $900. So we have to make sure that we're delivering more housing units, that we're balancing out the market so that demand is meeting the availability of housing units. We talked about using AI to speed up planning applications. That's just one tool. We're also taking a look at development fees and development charges and how those can be reassessed to make life a lot cheaper for people. So it is a very complex situation. I also have to look at healthcare as well. I mean, a lot of people do end up homeless in a homeless situation because of a health issue that has gone untreated for too long, and then it becomes a very highly acute issue, and that means they're unable to go to work. Then they find themselves on disability, and then out on the street, unfortunately. So we've done a number of things in this riding, including more money for infrastructure to help build the homes. We saw the Building Faster Fund announcement the other day, $800,000 for Belleville. We also do fund municipalities for infrastructure through the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. Recently, $15 million was announced for all 3 municipalities throughout the area to help them fund the infrastructure that they need to get more homes built. We had a great announcement back in June, I believe it was, about connecting 10,000 more residents to primary care through a $4.45 million investment from the province. Just the other day, I was at the Belleville Police Service with some community safety and policing grants as well. So it's not going to be one plank. There's no silver bullet. Even you look at the hard hub funding, $20 million over 3 years. That's a fantastic piece. It's a great resource that the community didn't have before, but that is not going to be a fix-all solution either. So we really have to, across multiple levels of government and multiple portfolios, have consistent investment over time. And I think, Jill, to your point, when you asked about, the plan aspect of it, really getting together, making sure we're all on the same page, reducing unintended redundancies. I mean, some redundancy is good, other redundancy is not. I mean, it's been suggested to me a number of times that in some of these sectors, there might be too many players in the space. And so you take what is a significant amount of funding, you divide it up 14 ways, and all of a sudden it's not as effective on the ground because you have duplication throughout those organizations. So it is a vexing challenge. It's one that's being faced across Canada, but we're trying to meet that challenge in a number of different ways, and certainly willing to partner with the federal government, with the municipalities as well, to really have a coordinated effort behind reducing homelessness.
Okay, yeah, and you know what? Everything Tyler said is bang on. The federal government is providing, of course, some major funding directly to municipalities. Reaching Home, for instance, what do we got? I've got 1.5 million, 1.05 million, sorry, to Hastings County, and that's divided into 24-25, 426,000, and next year, in the coming year, 625,000. Those are funding agencies including John Howard Society, Youth Ab Quinte, the Enrichment Center, of which Tyler was a board member. I was a board member. But I recall my time on Hastings County as chair of the Community and Human Services Committee for years prior to taking on this role. And the ongoing struggle is multi-pronged, as Tyler pointed out. There is no silver bullet, but things like the by name list that we're doing now, we have to identify who the people are who need the help, where they're from, what their needs are. And we are funding, the federal government has provided quite a bit of funding to the Hard Hub as well. But we have to remember that it took Mayor Ellis to declare a state of emergency. It's the municipal equivalent of holding his breath until he turned blue, kind of thing, to get the attention of higher levels of government before anything got done. We've got to change that kind of thinking. We can't allow crises on our street where the police chief of the day is asking people to stay away from the downtown because we literally have people dropping in the streets, and the emergency services need to get at them. That gave not a very good look to the city of Belleville at the time, and I know that in the halls of the House of Commons while I'm in Ottawa, it's still mentioned to me. Belleville, isn't that the area where they had the bad homelessness crisis? And what I do is I turn it right back to them, be they from Saskatchewan, be they from Alberta, and I say, no, you have the same crises on your streets as well. It's just that we got the headlines for it. So the point is as well is that housing is a major problem. We're in the middle of a multi-pronged crisis, an opioid crisis. A housing crisis is the underlying factor for a lot of these people being on the streets as well. Simply being able to afford a room somewhere, in a shared apartment or a shared living arrangement, that's almost out of reach anymore. So housing is at the crux of a lot of the problem. We're working on it on all levels of government. And I know Tyler is working on it from the provincial end. More has to be done. And the mayor has called for a task force on homelessness. We had a homeless summit some years ago when we were on council, and we had some great recommendations. It's just this problem doesn't seem to have a fast resolution. Meantime, our businesses are struggling with security issues. They're having people sleeping in in the front entrances of their business. They have vandalism, they have theft. So it's affecting at all levels. And, you know, it's not for lack of funding some of these programs, but it just doesn't seem to be a coordinated effort at this point, and somebody needs to take the lead on it.
Well, I think it's
Yeah,
a
and
much
I just,
bigger situation than people are actually giving it credit for. And that's part of where some of this information I'm hoping will come through. So the resources that are being provided aren't sufficient for the issues at hand. And then there's a whole series of things that are happening that no one's even talking about because, for example, businesses are just taking care of it on their own dime. When we did that first round of the survey, interestingly enough, across the 16 communities, 70% of the businesses who responded are outside of a downtown core. So who talks about the impact that, you know, that's, I mean, again,
And
this report,
businesses, Jill, unfortunately have to start paying security for their own businesses to,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nobody's
It's all
talking
sorts
about
of
that.
things. It's
Yeah.
capital and it's operating expenses. And it's even having to reduce hours. So the cost of doing business is part of the being another issue. So definitely you touched on the housing piece. There is the whole affordable home ownership context where I think CMHC is looking for purpose-built rental, and that resulted in not being able to be successful. And I think we could even talk a little bit about SDF and some of the reports coming out from that situation. Great comment from QEDC this year, or this past yesterday, around how the partnership with Loyalist College has been very supportive through SDF, and that is exactly the kind of example we want to see. But we also know that when there's an announcement of 9.4 billion for skilled trades, that none of that comes through to our college system here locally through apprenticeships. So, I mean, lots of stuff to unpack there, but maybe.
I note in the chat that Alicia McGuire, the multi-talented manager of economic development for the city of Belleville. And I'm sorry, Jill, I know you're the mod here, but she said she appreciates the comments and information provided by both of us. But respectfully, the key and missing link is the coordinated effort. Each level of government throwing funding behind a solution is not going to address this growing issue. And she's not wrong there, but funding is very important, as we know. A plan to coordinate effort is crucial. How do we move forward in a coordinated effort, and who takes that lead? So, you know, Tyler, who takes that lead?
well, it's a great question. You know, certainly locally, the mayor has announced the homelessness task force. I believe I've been invited. If I haven't been invited, I hope that I am soon. I'd be happy to participate in that because it's very important that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. We can't have different governments just launching money at a problem sort of willy-nilly without having a clear plan on, you know, what does each area need, how are we going to address it, and then a broader plan as well, because what we have seen is that when certain municipalities get supports and then other ones don't, the challenges tend to migrate to where the supports are, which only makes sense because, you know, someone in community A where there are not supports sees people that are living on the street, they make some calls and go, hey, there's a bed available for you tonight over in community B. Then that person comes to community B and stays there because that's where the supports are. So you really need to take a look at the whole region. You know, what are the challenges? What is the totality of the issue in that region? And how do we build out a network of support across that area to make sure that people who are experiencing homelessness in their own communities get the supports that they need in their own communities as well, and so that you don't have this migration of people, which, you know, through no fault of their own, they need services, they go to where the services are. You know, when we talk about housing, I just want to touch on this briefly. One of the things we need is significant innovation in reducing the cost per unit. You know, when I was on the Hastings County Community for Human Services, there's a build that was going on in Trenton for, I think it was 20 units, but they were $500,000 a unit. And when we look at a backlog at Hastings County of 3,400 families who are on a wait list for affordable housing units, you know, 3,400 times $500,000 a piece is a $1.7 billion problem. You know, which is not something at the local level that's going to be able to be addressed. You know, we need to be able to drive those costs down into that $100,000 to $200,000 range. You know, we're still looking at a $200 to $400 million problem, but at least that's something that can be addressed. And we did have a great announcement with Minister Flack in town the other day, where an agency had used some of their property to build a tiny home, which we've made some changes to the Provincial Planning Act to allow for small units to be built. It was $160,000 for that particular dwelling unit, if I have the numbers correct, which again makes it a much more manageable problem. I think housing first is an important part of the strategy. We need to have places for people to go, because it's very hard if you are on the streets, if you have medical issues, mental health issues, addictions issues, whatever it may be, very hard to get those sorted out while you are still going to the street. You can't go into see a therapist and then go right back to where you were on the street, living rough, and be expected to address those problems, which is why, with the Heart Hub, we're getting some transitional housing beds as well, which is an important component. But really, driving down the cost to build modular housing units, prefab units, tiny houses, things of that nature, and then, really harnessing the government land that we have available in order to find a place to put these units is going to be key in delivering them at a price that is then affordable to actually be able to address the problem.
Well, Tyler, and you raised a great point, but the undeniable fact is that while we were both on Hastings County committees, and further to Alicia's point, I think we're straying from the answering that question, is that Hastings County, in fact, is taking the lead on that. They are the any of the funds we provide, I know from the federal government, they access programs federally and provincially. Hastings County as the upper tier community that is looking after that under the aegis of the Community and Human Resources is in fact that agency. Now, does that mean that we abdicate all of our responsibilities in that respect? Absolutely not. But the undeniable fact is that they have not built a single unit of supportive community housing in this area since the mid to late 80s. So we have a crying need not only for supportive community housing, but for co-op housing. We haven't seen a co-op housing build in some time. Now, there are agencies that are working Altogether Housing and some others on my office. And Tyler, I don't know if you've had them in this past
Bob Cottrell and Phil Spry and all the great folks over there.
Through the summer and when we had a Constituent Week last week, I sat down with groups. We have some great plans for some of these great builds that are coming, but they're mired in red tape and agencies. CMHC right now, I'm about to go to kick in some doors at CMHC in Ottawa, and I voice it to anybody who will listen. I'm livid with that agency right now. Right now we have Build Canada Homes, and we're working out how Build Canada Homes can leverage some of these projects that CMHC seems to have put the stick in the spokes of. And I've spoken to this Pinecrest. There's a school in Prince Edward County in Bloomfield. 54 affordable seniors housing units that are just ready. They're shovel ready. They were shovel ready 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We have an example of a great project, more than one actually, in Quinte West that I don't want to reveal too much about, because again, it's in the very preliminary stages. But again, some of these agencies are behind those. This is where once we can get some of this housing stock moving, we can get people, that are precariously hanging on to living 3 and 4 families in one place, get them into some of these affordable places that will free up other housing in the community. And again, it's the ripple of the knock-on effect that will help all of us. But it all begins, I think, with a commitment and as we've said, a unified approach to getting some community housing built and some affordable housing built. And then the private sector is always going to take care of itself. So,
yeah. Keeping with the housing, one of the big issues we have is that a lot of tenants that in past generations would have been buying homes are just not able to. They're stuck renting long-term because they just can't build enough savings while they're renting. do either of your governments have plans to help renters transition into ownership, whether it's through tax incentives, savings programs, or and we've already talked about some of the things you're doing to reduce the overall cost of new housing, but what can we work on together to help this transition from renting to ownership?
Okay, great question, and thanks for that, Suzanne, because the Liberal government has just enacted the first-time homebuyer GST rebate. So you can, after May 27 of this year, and it's already in place, up to $50,000 GST or HST relief. The Up to $1,500 a home buyer's tax credit on a first home. Proposed up to, yeah, this is to help us rebound, not recovery. An average price, I should add, of homes right now as a result of some of these initiatives has brought down the price 6.7% 1 year, year over year since last year, and an inventory 50% above the 10-year norm right now. So the houses are available, the prices are coming down, the incentives are there to buy. But again, it goes back to our initial statement. The economy right now is in such a state of uncertainty. It's little wonder that people who are first-time home buyers are saying, "Do I make the leap right now because I may not know how my business or my job might be affected going down the road?" So we're doing everything we can. Build Canada Homes, of course, going back to, I think Tyler mentioned that we need plans for prefabricated homes. They're a great solution, and we've seen it with a build in Ward 2 in the city of Belleville in a multi-residential project that Nick Stakos did. Some of these plans are great. They're going forward, and Build Canada Homes has put out a catalog of the approved plans and or suppliers. So we need to get ahead of this, and we need to ramp it up quickly. And this, our government is actually making plans. I hope that you'll watch closely for the November 4th budget, where we flesh out some of these plans. We've got to get building.
Yeah, very true. And I think Chris, really nailed it with a lot of those programs, and so I won't go back into that too much. But it really is a challenge, particularly for younger people. About 60% of my generation feels that they won't ever be able to own a home until perhaps their parents pass away, and that's only if their parents own a home. So it really is a challenge that prevents people from moving on with their lives. I mean, if you can't find a house that you can raise a family in, well, then you don't raise a family. You don't get married as quickly. There's issues, as Chris said, with some of the hesitancy that we're seeing because of the tariffs, where a couple says, well, we can afford a house today, but one of us works in manufacturing, the other one is an expert. Like, what is this going to mean for us in 12 months? Are we still going to have that job that allows us to afford the house that we can buy now? And so I think there is some hesitancy as well. We've done a number of things to help create more units for renters, including waiving the provincial portion of HST on purpose-built rentals. That helped get the market going and get more rentals built after quite a period where rentals hadn't been built in the province of Ontario. We are also, as I said, taking an aggressive look at how we can reduce development charges. And part of that is taking the burden off of municipalities to deliver the infrastructure that's required. So we're taking a look at different municipal service corporation models. We talked about the AI being used from a planning perspective to get applications through quicker, because obviously time is money, and it reduces the lead time to get housing into the marketplace. So I think that people have seen that our government has been very aggressive in terms of putting out new housing policy, trying to do things to reduce the cost, to speed up approvals, to speed up time to get shovels into the ground. But there'll always be more to do, and look forward to working with Chris and with the municipality to make sure that we're getting those units built.
Chris, you mentioned the November 4th budget. So my next question is sort of around something that the Prime Minister mentioned the other night. He said that Canadians will have to make sacrifices, and I know that there's some real challenges coming ahead. So, I put this question to both of you. What do we say to those working families in our region that are already struggling to make ends meet, knowing that there's we're going to be asking them to make more sacrifices going forward. Maybe Chris, you want to start
Yeah,
with
I'll
that?
start first because yeah, and I don't look at that. That got a lot of play in the House the last couple of days, where the opposition stood up and you know torque those words a little bit to say, no help coming, you're on your own, all that nonsense. The point is that as we're finding, and trust me, Canada is best positioned out of almost any other country in the world right now in terms of bearing the impacts of these tariffs, because there are countries that are far, far further down the pipe in terms of the U.S. putting the screws to them. That said, it's cold comfort for people who are communities that have mills closing, plant layoffs in the automotive industry, the steel sector. I know Hamilton is a hotbed of anger right now over this. But the point is that if we are going to weather this storm, and as has happened in times of great challenges in wartime, and let's face it, we're in a financial war with the effects of these tariffs. We are going to have to make some sacrifices. We are going to have to determine, what kind of discretionary spending is going to be smart for our family or our businesses, because we don't know the end game or the end impacts. That's the sad reality of this right now. And when the prime minister says we're doing everything we can, sure, I've got a slew of programs in front of me that are, to absorb some of these impacts, to help weather the storm. But we have to make long-term plans, and we are doing that. We're trying to, get this the Canada Strong program and make ourselves more resilient going forward. Once we come through this fire, we're going to be stronger for it. I'm sure of it. But weathering that storm right now is going to be the challenge. And it's easy. Well, it's not easy for me to say, but I mean, it is again cold comfort for the people that are trying to weather the storm. And today's just another example of when you wake up and you turn on your radio or your TV or you open your phone and you find the news is that, the Orange Menace has put the boots to us again. So, um, you know, we're pedaling as fast as we can, and we're trying to stick handle through this as best we can. But I'll tell you, I'm confident that we have the best plan and the best team to navigate that. I wouldn't be here if we weren't.
Yeah.
I'm going to
And
get
the grants are coming. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, maybe Dort, if he has anything else, because I want to do one last question that is a little more Belleville related before we close up at 11:30. But Dort, is there anything else from the county?
Yeah, I do. I have one more. I can't talk about the county without talking about the importance and impact of arts, culture, and tourism on Prince Edward County. Per capita, we tie with Stratford for the number of professional artists. We know in Ontario alone, it contributes over $26 billion to the GDP and employs over 270,000 people in Ontario. And as you know, we look at budgets. What are the two levels of government going to do to continue to support the important industry and segment that is arts, culture, and tourism going forward?
Tyler?
Yeah, I'd love to take a crack at that first. So you're absolutely right. Particularly in this area, it's a huge driver of economic development, and not just in Prince Edward County, but throughout the area. Our government has been very supportive of the arts. I think contributed about $350 million since we took office in 2018, because we appreciate not only the intrinsic value of having creative, artistic people in your community, but also the huge draw it is from an economic development standpoint as well. So we're going to continue to support the arts in that way. Minister Stan Cho was just in our riding the other day at the Quinte Arts Council Awards, which was fantastic. We got to honor a bunch of great local artists. And we're going to continue to use that as a real strength. I mean, when we talk about economic development and housing and jobs and all those sorts of things, I mean, those are all key components, but there is something about tying a community together that arts and culture can do that those other things can't. And so it's an integral part of our quality of life. It's one of the main reasons that people want to come to this area. And as I said, it's a key economic driver that will continue to support the provincial level.
And I think we're at a very important point right now where, because of what's happening down south, people are not traveling to the US as much. So we have a huge opportunity to really shine a light on arts and culture and tourism in Canada to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, we thanks, Stuart. The Canada Council for the Arts is, of course, a long-time great supportive program, and I've spoken through the summer and in our Consti weeks with a great number of agencies that have accessed that. And you know, we've got the Quinte Arts Council that we confer with on a number of occasions and regularly. I'm personally working on a program to secure some local artists to hang on Parliament Hill and here in the riding in my riding office. It's a great program. But you know, in terms of bolstering tourism, one of the things that we're also encouraging is Indigenous art in this region, and we have some great artists with our friends at Tyinanaga Mohawk Territory and some of the Haudenosaunee artists. And again, we're promoting Indigenous art both through the Canada Council and various other Indigenous arts funding agencies, and they sure do increase. We can look at the Quinte Arts Council for some figures on just how much it means for the community. So, you know, FedDev Ontario, they all arts and media businesses all benefit from these partnerships, and I know that we'll continue to do that. And you're so correct, Stuart. It really does. And we found in the past that, and we said this, Tyler and myself, this summer, this past few weeks when we had the Arts Recognition Awards. Just how much richer it makes the community, and it benefits every one of the small communities that we're talking about this week in Small Business Week, to have these arts groups and these artists in our own community, because they do make us a more fulsome, better place, because it tells our story. So you know, I'm proud to be part of it, and I'm hoping you know, very shortly to be able to make some announcements on that front in terms of some local artists. So yeah, it's very, very important. Thanks, Stuart.
Go ahead, Tyler, if you want to just a quick comment, and then I've got two other things. We've got some healthcare issues kind of spinning in the chat room that I'd like to address.
Well, perfect. And that's what I was going to touch on, Jill. Just I noticed that there were a number of questions sort of in the chat that hadn't been addressed yet. A couple of them were provincial, so I just wanted to take a second to run through a few of them. Randy Arnold about the speed camera money grab type situation. Doug Ford, we're getting rid of them. I think that our municipality did a very good job of having appropriate signage, having a reasonable buffer zone, making sure that people knew what the posted speed was. Not everyone did that. Unfortunately, we have to regulate the entire province, not just the municipalities that are doing it the right way. So the cameras are going to go. He's asking, will people get their money back? Unfortunately not. Those tickets were issued under the legal framework that existed at the time. You will not get your money back. Maxine Holland had a question about regulation of long-term care and retirement homes. On the long-term care homes, we doubled the number of inspectors. We have the highest ratio of inspectors to homes anywhere in Canada, one inspector for every 2 homes, because we understand how important it is to make sure that our older population, some of our most vulnerable people, are getting the care that they need. We haven't done the same thing in retirement homes. The Retirement Homes Regulatory Authority, RORA, is funded at a rate of $25 per bed per year. So effectively, they don't have enough funding to deliver the same type of inspection that the long-term care homes are. But I am kicking around a private members bill right now that would seek to address that. So we'll see if that can get through caucus. But certainly, again, the same thing we're doing in long-term care. We recognize the importance of making sure those older folks are being cared for. I think we should apply a similar strategy to retirement homes as well, and make sure that those people are getting the care that they need. And then you said, Jill, that we would jump in on some of the healthcare questions, so I'll skip those. Lisa Comerford, prefab homes, HTA weight limits. Absolutely agree with you. It's something I talked to the Minister of Transportation about just the other day, and also those load restrictions in the spring as well. If we can exempt those in the case of prefab housing, I would love to see that, because you're right, it is a big challenge to transport those houses with the weight restrictions we have currently. And then I see Louisa in here, a Trenton company that is impacted by steel tariffs. So the Protect Ontario financing program, which is part of the Protect Ontario account, we have $1 billion of liquidity that's really designed for those companies affected by the Section 232 tariffs. So there is some financial relief available for them. If you'd like, please have that company reach out to my office. We'll be happy to help direct them to some resources and hopefully seek to rectify that problem with them. But the larger thing that we need to do for steel producers is make sure that all the infrastructure that we're building out across this country at the federal level, at the provincial level, I mean, we do $30 billion of procurement a year. We have a $200 billion infrastructure plan. Those projects need to be built with Canadian steel, with Canadian lumber, supplied by Canadian companies to the maximum extent that is possible. And that's one of the ways that we're going to be able to support these businesses. Only 35% of our domestic steel production is used domestically. In other steel producing countries, you see it as high as 70%. We need to get into that 60 to 70% range, and that will make a huge difference for those companies that are struggling right now, particularly steel producers. And so there's more work on that coming soon.
It's going to be mostly Ontario, but
Yeah, that's some great points from Tyler as well. And I know that the federal government is enacting some big time supports for those industries as well. And when you talk steel, we have steel producers that have been slowed down, idled. We're investing as well in helping them keep workers on the payroll, because as we found in Sault Ste. Marie, yeah, where we've got steel producers. I'm sorry?
I think Algoma Steel, you guys stepped in with $400 million, and we contributed 100 as well.
Yes, correct. And what they're doing at Algoma is taking the opportunity to go from the blast furnace style of producing steel to the electric, the cleaner electric, more efficient. And that's the way, the larger industries are doing. On the lumber front, some of the softwood lumber, we're seeing some of the plants shuttered. We came immediately to the aid of Cap lumber, Kapuskasing lumber in the north, and again, we've managed to keep that plant's doors open with some of our supports. So it's every time we turn around, one of these industries and one of these sectors are being hit. There are supports for them. They'll be more fulsomely laid out in our November 4th budget, but again, it's almost daily, and when we turn on the news, it's almost playing whack-a-mole, where we have to have supports, and it's hurting our industries right, left, and center, and the knock-on effect and the trickle-down effect are hitting our communities. There's no two ways about it. The opposition likes to say, oh, it's because of this policy, that policy, and then they will make this cynical orange man bad, as this supposed excuse that we on the government side use. Well, listen, folks, orange man is bad, and today was another example of it. So,
right.
And we're having to feel the effects.
So one quick thing, just going back to the healthcare question, it was kind of an extension of the long-term care, but the idea of being able to support people staying in space longer, is there any consideration around that? I think Grace said something about, yeah.
Sorry, did you want to jump in first?
No, I wasn't clear on that question. Sorry, Jill, what was that?
Sorry, it was more about, is there any support to keep people in their home longer? So in extension, so there was the retirement home question. Maybe it got removed, but I thought it was there.
Oh, no, I did see that one in there as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that we're doing. We're doing expanded home care, making sure that people can get the care that they need at home. We've also done something very interesting with the medical innovation pathways. which will help accelerate medical innovations and get them out to market quicker. A lot of those mean that you could do some things like draining wounds and cysts and things like that at home instead of having to come back into the hospital multiple times to do that. That helps people stay in their homes. We've also funded over 400 seniors active living centers throughout Ontario, and we'll continue to support them so that people can get the supports they need, that sense of community, get active. We know that social isolation is the number one enemy for seniors, and they decline quite quickly if they're not getting that social interaction. So we've invested very heavily in that as well. And we're also running a pilot program through our long-term care homes, community access to long-term care, so that some of those things that have been specific to long-term care home, particularly on the Alzheimer's treatment front, people could effectively use it in an inpatient way. They could come into the long-term care home, get some of the support they need, and then go back to the residence where they're living. And I will put in a plug here for Paul Carr. He has the seniors tax credit municipally, helping seniors reduce their tax burden, which we know is an important aspect of being able to stay in their home, as well as the affordability of it. So that is available in Belleville. We've been, very aggressive in cutting fees wherever we can, including the gas tax holiday that we did, including cutting some of the PST on certain items as well, and reducing costs as much as possible. So those are our measures that all help seniors, but certainly a lot to do. We appreciate our seniors very much. They are the ones that built this province and this country, and they need to be well taken care of in their older years.
Okay, so Tyler hit on some great points, and as he should, especially on some of the seniors care, because it's his bailiwick. I believe he's the parsec to the Minister of Long-Term Care.
I used to be. They moved me to ECDEV now.
Oh, look at you go. But anyway, sorry, but that's why he's so well versed. And one of the benefits, I think, and this is just an aside, we do have two government MPs and MPPs right now, and people might say, whatever, it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way, and we do have as a result, the municipalities and the businesses and the residents of the area have access directly to the government agencies. But I just wanted to touch on some of the things that the federal government does help. And of course, we know that the federal government doesn't directly get involved in the administration or the funding of healthcare at the municipal level and the provincial level. We do provide funding to agencies that do, and we've helped provide funding for at-home healthcare, as Tyler pointed out. It's an excellent program. And one of the real good success stories, and we've heard this from people in the county in particular, Duart, I think you were there this past summer when we opened the seniors drop-in center in Picton. I mean, it gets people out of their homes and down to get activities in a very tangible way, and I was very proud to be part of that announcement, because the federal government played a significant role in helping open that space. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it does make a difference and as we all age, we have an aging population. We know we have to look after ourselves in our communities, and that just makes for a better life in our communities.
Okay, so one last quick question, and then we'll say goodbye and thank you very much. But do you think that Premier Ford is staying in his lane when it comes to deciding whether or not municipalities can have speed cameras, or whether or not they should pay $75 million on an ad campaign that apparently has cut off all trade talks going forward? I just had to throw it out there.
Well, I think I should probably take that one first. And, I don't know if there's any such thing as a quick question with a group of politicians, although I would like to keep this one as brief as I possibly could. So municipalities are creatures of the province. So provincial regulation is designed to affect municipalities. These speed cameras came into being by provincial regulation. And so it would be to the province to remove that regulation that allowed for it to occur in the first place. So on that one, staying in our lane. On the other question, the $75 million ad campaign that seems to have drawn the ire of President Trump. Listen, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to make the case not only here in Canada, but also to the American people, to American business owners, and to members of Congress that, we are stronger together. And the fact that, Donald Trump claims, he's the ultimate Republican and he loves Ronald Reagan and this sort of thing. Well, Ronald Reagan would not have loved what Donald Trump is doing. We were trying to make that very clear in our ad, that this protectionism, this policy of tariffs, this idea that you can use trade as a means to direct domestic policy in other countries, that is not what the Republican Party was about. That is not what America is about. And it is not in our best interest. This mutual free trade that we've had for decades and decades has been the foundation for the shared prosperity that both nations have experienced over that time period. You look at our auto industry, we do $138 billion in bilateral trade with the United States just in the auto sector alone. Most of those cars cross the border 3, 4, 5 times before they're completed. We can't unscramble this omelet. We have built this incredible relationship across North America together, and we are stronger together. And that is what we were trying to tell the Americans. And if it costs $75 million and we get a couple bad tweets because of it, that's fine, provided we get to the place where we get the right deal that supports our businesses, supports our workers, and allows for that prosperity to continue. So I'm going to say we're in our lane.
I'm just going to briefly touch on that one because it very much was Tyler's boss who seems to have created or touched off the ire of the aforementioned orange man. The simple fact is that Prime Minister Carney has fostered a good working relationship for the first time in, I don't know, and I've been in the journalism field and in the municipal political field for a lot of years. I can't remember when all premiers of all stripes have been pulling together on one oar as much as we have been at this point. Now, you know what? Do I think that the Prime Minister isn't a little bit as he's flying? I believe he's literally at this point over the Pacific on his way to Asia for that conference. I'm sure he's having some indigestion right now over what may or may not have been wrought by that ad campaign. I didn't disagree, by the way, with that ad campaign. I thought that was, I thought it was a pretty good piece of work, but and to use Ronald Reagan of all people to make your point was, a pretty good stroke. But as we found, Mr. Ford has a very good communications team at his behest, and when you have as much money, it seems as our friends in the provincial government seem to have in their war chest, you can afford a campaign like that. But this is the another example of where we're all of our premiers are good, strong-willed, and looking out for their own people. And as we've seen, Premier Ford's not afraid to tell people what he believes. And this may take a little bit of diplomacy, but this too shall pass.
Excellent.
And perhaps it's a good cop, bad cop sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, you know what? You've got to use what you use. There are 2 points of view right now that they're saying, you know what, anything that gets more talk about this, so him tweeting about it actually puts it in front of people who probably wouldn't have seen it.
Well,
so
it was on it was on CNN today.
Yeah.
When I just briefly looked in on the American broadcaster this morning, it was one of their top
interesting
stories as
what
well.
Paula Ingram has to say about it, but
Yeah,
that's another story. Listen, thank you both so much for being here. Thanks to our participants for submitting some questions as we went through. I would really like to have any of those resources, particularly following the budget announcement. If there is anything that you think we can share, always good to have. And thank you as well, MPP Allsopp. So Suzanne, Dwart, anything that you want to add to this before we say goodbye?
Yeah, no, I do want to thank you both for, answering the questions. I know it's not easy. I know the situation we're in right now is very fluid. I loved your whack-a-mole analogy. I was actually thinking the exact same thing as you were talking. we do feel like we're putting out a lot of different fires and things keep changing. I want to thank you both and your office staff as well. They've been great working with our local chambers to make sure that we can get the information that we need to pass on to our business members so that they can stay up to date. And really, that's all we can do. There's no easy solutions. There's no short-term gains here. I think it is definitely a very long, challenging time ahead. Despite it being such a challenging time, we're seeing lots of new businesses opening up in the Quinte region, which just goes to show how strong the entrepreneurial spirit here is. Because they're continuing to follow those dreams and open businesses and serve our growing communities. But thank you both, and I appreciate all of your answers today. I think you've brought some clarity to some of the issues.
Yes, thank you both, especially for taking your time during Bay of Quinte Small Business Week and addressing our business members and residents here. And the only thing I have to say is, go Jays, go!
Thank you. And just if I may, we'll see you all, a lot of you tonight at the awards ceremony at the RCAF Museum. And tonight I think is going to be an example of the resiliency of, as Suzanne put it, of some of our small businesses and our entrepreneurs. Because I mean, despite the fact that people try to tell you Canada's broken, tonight will be. We'll put the lie to that, and we'll see just how resilient we are, and we'll keep at it. So thanks, and I appreciate the forum here today. Thank you so much, all of you from the chambers, for putting on this forum.
Yes, on my part, thank you, everybody. Happy Small Business Week. Big thank you to all three chambers for putting this on. They are your voice for business throughout this area. They let us know what's going on, what's working, what's not working. They hold us accountable to business. So make sure you're letting them know about your concerns. Buy your membership if you don't already have one. Put in the plug, renew your membership, get the plaque. They'll put the thing on it for you. It's great. You can tell all your customers you're part of the Chamber of Commerce because it really is a very meaningful thing. And it's so important for Chris and I to be able to hear from you directly, because what you say helps us influence policy. And we want to make sure that we're putting out policies that are geared towards you. So thank you very much. Happy Small Business Week, and we'll see you all at the QBAA Awards tonight.
Thanks so much. Okay, I guess that concludes our meeting. Glad to have you all.
Bye now. Thanks again.
Thanks. Just Suzanne, you want to